Hey guys, welcome back, it's Meg. Today we're going to be doing a 27 Fortified Theater. You can find my stat weights in the top left, my Legendary and Unity in the top right, and my Talent and Trinkets in the bottom right. This first pull is super standard. We're going to be pulling the Bloodhorn into the boss, Lusting. I'm going to pop Fallen right away just to deal with the first tantrum as well as the damage going out from the relics and any kicks that might be getting off as we are kind of setting up this first pull. I played this boss the exact same way I play it on Tyran. It's always Lust into Fallen Order first, and then Chi-Ji after, and if you need to, you can use Fallen Order again. You can also preemptively drop Ring. I forgot to do it this time, but if you drop it on melee and everyone's in there, it will immediately get rid of the rogue. So I was just a little late there because I forgot to preemptively drop it, but that is something that you can do. There isn't a whole lot of damage going out on this boss initially, but then during the raging tantrums you're going to have a little bit of damage, as well as if you start to run out of kicks for the Searing Death, there'll be some damage there, but outside of that, there's not really anything AoE going on. It is bursting week, so we did get that little bit, but there's no actual mobs in this outside of the one that we dragged into it. Went ahead and popped Crane here just because it'll be up by the time that I actually end up needing it again. This is more for a mana thing as well as just a little bit of maintenance healing. This pull is pretty scary on Bursting Week, so I went ahead and preemptively popped Fort Brew and then threw down Fallen Order as well. And we're just kind of going to be triaging people based on how much damage they're taking from the ghosts, and then we are also going to be making sure that we are keeping people topped because we don't want them to be getting Bind Soul with a couple of soul touches mixed in. I also wanted to hold onto my Diffuse for the bursting stacks for this. It'll also double as a defensive against the Soul Touch or Bind Soul or anything like that as we get towards the end. Revival goes there just to top people to prep for the bursting stacks, and I already had used my Blood Spattered Scale to take care of the damage that was going out before the bursting. With no decurse, it is a good idea to have the cursed target use a defensive or put a defensive on them, in this case Cocoon. We also have access to AMZ on the next one here. So I went ahead and popped Crane first because Fallen Order wasn't quite up yet, and you're going to use this opportunity to put hots on everyone and just make sure that they are topped for the application of the curse, because on Fortified it does quite a bit of damage and it can finish someone off after the AoE. I also went ahead and greeted here and just relied on our normal kit to heal. I used Mana Tea, but I held onto everything else like Fallen Order because I wanted that for the next one. For the first AoE, I'm going to use Fallen as well as my Blood Spattered Scale. This is just as minor defensive, and I wanted to use it while I had more ads up because the Soulbinder will die before anything else. I also went ahead and popped Fort Brew. I really would have liked to have diffused this dot here, but I didn't want to blow my diffuse and my fort on the same set, just because I know I'm going to need the defensive for the next one. I do end up diffusing the dot here just to help finish off that Soulbinder. I thought that the cast for the AoE would go off a little bit sooner and I would get a little bit of value outside of diffuse, but I did not. It's alright though, because we have AMZ. I also still have my health stone, and I went ahead and used revival here. And then I'm just going to make sure that I am dispelling myself when it comes up, because I had the soul rot as well as the bursting stacks. Going into this boss, I like to use Fallen Order on pull to take care of the first set of parasites as well as the relic damage going out, and then after the first set of hands is consumed, we're going to go ahead and use Lust. There's not a whole lot of healing to do on this fight, and with a Warlock, we're going to have someone dispelling every single time. So the healing cooldowns used here are pretty much just going to be for mana saving rather than actual throughput. Normally I would be using Revival to take care of one of the bad overlaps here, but in this case I'm going to be holding onto it because it is bursting week, and we are going to go into a pull where I would like to have it available if needed. On this pull, we're going to go ahead and use Fallen Order right away, and then we're just going to be making sure that we are getting stops on the AoE disease, because we want to be able to use our Revival, not for the disease, but for the bursting stacks at the end of it if Ur doesn't line up well. Once again, because of the jumpy boys, we are going to be sending Fallen Order here, and then we're just going to be watching out for the chop targets. If they don't have a defensive, it's going to hurt pretty badly, given that it's a fort week. But other than that, you can pretty much just spin and avoid the circles and the fervents here. The most dangerous part about this fight is on pull when you have the ads being dragged in, as well as when you finally get the relics in there as well. You have some residual damage going out, plus you have spawning, and you don't want to get pulled into the Tenderizing Smash when the Force Slam goes down, so is your focus here. And then I also, on Tyrannical weeks especially, I like to CC one of the mobs out as they spawn. You do have to wait until they hit the ground, otherwise it won't work, but I do like to prevent that jumping damage while we have these mobs out, while we have the relic damage going out while is still up, etc. That just helps prevent a lot of the unnecessary damage. And then on Tyran weeks, if you get jumped on twice, you're probably dead, so I do like to CC them out there as well, just to prevent some of that damage going out. These cooldowns I'm sending aren't really for the healing requirement, because there's not a whole lot of healing going out except for the jumpy guys as well as the stormings, but I do like to use them just to help conserve mana a little bit, and by the time that we need them, they'll be up again. Unfortunately, right here, our rogue gets chopped and then double jumped on, and she ends up dying. That is one of the reasons that I do like to have at least one CC'd while the ads are still up, but I kind of thought that we would be safe given that the boss was sub 1 mil. Not a huge loss because there's not that much damage left on the boss, but it is just something to look out for. Mainly using Fallen Order here just to take care of the people that get Jagged Quarreled. We are focusing down the Arbalest before we chain in the other guy, and we're also going to go check on who the other Lieutenant mob is, just so we can see if we are capable of doubling or not, because on a fort week, it's a little bit more important on whether or not if you get 2 shouts, that's not something you want to do. On a Tyrant week, you could probably get away with it, but it's still not awesome if they're both the shout mobs, so we're just going to check that. And then we are also going to just go ahead and focus down There's no more Arbalest, so there's no more Jagged Quarrels, and it's pretty much just tank damage from here on out. For our double, we decided to lust here because our timers were a little bit off, so we're going to go ahead and use it just so we don't lose an entire lust altogether. We will not have it for Xav, but we will have it for Mordretha, which we get more value out of because we have people up all the time, whereas with Xav, they go downstairs and they lose lust and all of that fun stuff for the mechanics. Fallen Order on pull here. The captain is under the DK's control, so we have a little bit of extra AoE damage and reduced damage taken from AoE, so we're just going to go ahead and use Fort Brew as well as Fallen on pull. The Jagged Quarrels are our biggest concern here, so we're going to make sure that we get the Arbalest down. There are 2 of them. Sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't, so this is really just making sure that you are keeping people topped and stopping the quarrels as much as you can. Main concern on this boss is going to be living the Might of Maldraxxus. That is his stomp that he does occasionally. It's about every 30 seconds depending on his spell queuing, and this is where you're going to be cycling your defensives. Not a big deal on fort weeks, but on Tyrant weeks it is definitely the hardest part of this dungeon for us, so I'd recommend running Dampen. If you find yourself struggling to live, you also run a high verse set, as well as you can run the Blood Spatter scale, which is what I'm doing. That's what I took the first jump with, as well as being able to kill Woe, so you get the 15% reduced damage taken. On this fight, you can also use Fallen Order as a defensive, given that with Wasteland Propriety from Theatar, you get that extra verse stick that sometimes make the difference between living or not living on Tyran. This has since been nerfed. This video I took in 9.2, now we are in 9.2.5, and he has been nerfed by about 10% on these stomps, so that'll let us live a higher, 1 key level higher than we were able to before. On a 28, we would die with no defensive, so now I think we will be able to live with no defensive but high verse and everything else with stat procs and everything. But a 29 now will cause us to get one shot without a defensive from that stomp. We have our Crane available, but not Fallen Order. Don't really need it. The only damage going out on this boss is the 50% phase, as well as the ad spawning, so there's not really a whole lot to do. You don't have to hold cooldowns for it or anything. The only reason that you might want to do that is if you have a high movement phase from the ghost guys that you're going to have to be running away from and can't heal. But it's not grievous. The only thing that they could die to is getting hit by the beams or getting hit by the frontals, so it's not a whole lot of worry on our part, and we just want to try and do as much damage on this boss as possible. Alright, and we are just going to finish off the captain. He gets damaged a little bit during the fight, but not enough to actually kill him, and this is the last of our percent. I hope that this video was helpful. If you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch, Twitter, or Discord, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.